Okay, we got the lie that made food conglomerates rich and is slowly poisoning us. Let's see.
What if I told you these ridiculous ads?
Did you say I'll feel better smoking Philip Morris?
Yes, you'll feel better.
Are not all that different from these ads.
Oh, I'll feel better smoking a cigarette. Hell yeah, brother. Light me one up.
Now, every box of Kellogg's Rice Krispies cereal has antioxidants and nutrients that help support your child.
Oh, look at all the color. Look at all the vibrancy compared to the dark black and white background of real life. Oh my God, I need some color in my life.
Immune system.
For decades, massive food conglomerates like Kraft and Kellogg's have made over $1 trillion
that
through the
Keanu?
manipulation of food science and food scientists, and ultimately, us. And their goal is much like big tobaccos, to do and say whatever they can to get people to buy their product over and over and over again until their product is no longer a want, but a need.
To whose advantage is it to keep the public confused about what to eat? Well, obviously, it's the food industry.
Big food. Big food. It's their responsibility to keep me confused.
Industry's advantage.
Ultra-processed foods make up over half of the American diet, and do so with little scrutiny from health experts or government.
Yeah, like over the course of time, I have slowly, I don't know, just channeled most of these types of foods out of my life. Like when I was a little kid, 100%, all of my dieting needs were met with Kool-Aid, McDonald's, entire sleeves of Oreos, cookies, donuts. Yeah, 100%.
Government officials. And the food industry is terrified. Even if Americans skip one ultra-processed snack or meal a day, sales would plummet by 7%. Every 5 years, the dietary guidelines.
Yo, I'm doing my part. I'm keeping that shit in the down arrows, the down stonks, the red down thumbs. Yeah.
Advisory Committee meets to review the relevant research and give the American public advice about the latest nutrition science, a process food conglomerates are attempting to sabotage as we speak.
Oh
In
shit.
every possible way in which they can use their money and political power to encourage people to think their products are good and are willing to help them sell their products, they're going to do that.
The evidence is grim. Ultra-processed foods are being linked in study after study to things like heart disease, diabetes, cancer. Researchers are beginning to understand that many of them are functionally addictive. So who will win in this battle between big food and science? We set out to investigate. And
Bro, like food is like one of the most complex topics to like even talk about. Like flashbang. Okay. So like there is so much processing that goes into any piece of food, any even seemingly regular pieces of food like produce. Okay, so you have like, let's make it simple. You have like even a seed. That's a seed. Okay, even a seed can be genetically modified, or not even genetically modified. It can be, what's the word they call it? Where they like, take out like a, what, like this is like a farm or whatever, and this is the soil, and these are all the plants. Even the soil can be genetically modified. Who's that one dude? That India dude? Sadhguru or whatever? Even the soil, and he's like been talking about this for years. At least in America, all of the regular farms, their soil has been completely dried up of nutrients. And what they do is they have to import certain like baggages of extra, I don't know, nutrients to put into the soil, because what was once like rich and nutrient filled soil, over the course of time, you grow plants on soil. Over the course of time, that soil is simply going to have all its nutrients sucked out from the plants. So, if you go back, I don't know, like umpteen amount of years, 50, 100 years or whatever, and you compare like a tomato back then was way more nutrient rich than a tomato nowadays. So the soil is processed. The seeds, where they selectively take they'll take like plants that provide seeds, and they will selectively what the fuck is the word I'm looking for? They take the best seeds, the ones that grow in almost seemingly in any type of environment, and they use these seeds. So like, whether or not you think soil is GMO, or whether or not you think seeds are like, they're not GMO, or maybe they are, but you can't like downplay the fact that seeds, like the seeds that are used for all of your produce, have been carefully selected so that all of the what do you call it? All the seeds that would be predispositioned for it would turn out like smaller fruits or anything really, have just been deleted from like the big what do you call it? From the library of seeds that are used in a lot of these, like, 100% American farms or whatever. So the soil is GMO, the seed is GMO, the plants, they don't really need to be GMO. Yes, you can argue like herbicide, pesticide, whatever. You can argue that, but like just how like modern day like produce is grown, they like everything is GMO and processed. It's like it's like a gradient on what you think, or not what you think, what you deem acceptable to be an acceptable amount of process for your food. Because by definition, even from the concept or from the inception, the soil has been modified, the seed is modified, the plant itself is modified. And so where do you think all these processed foods come from? All these soups and whatnot. Well, they come from these plants right here. So then they grow through even more process to come out with jar tomato sauce, soup, fucking cereal, peanut butter, and whatever. So even the produce that you think is like non-GMO, it's GMO still. It's just, to what degree are you willing to like accept it?
In the process, learn the disturbing truth about how big tobacco's lies continue to make Americans sick.
When you change to Philip Morris, you'll feel better.
So what
You'll feel better. Smoke cigarettes, you'll feel better. What a scam.
exactly are ultra-processed foods? We asked molecular biologist and nutritionist Mary Nessel.
These are foods that are industrially produced. They require machinery and they require ingredients that you don't have access to. So industrially produced, designed to be irresistibly
Nesquik,
delicious.
Pringles.
That's their purpose. Corn on the cob is unprocessed. Canned corn, frozen corn are processed. Doritos are ultra-processed.
It's not just junk food, to be clear. Many breakfast cereals, granola, and protein bars, diet foods, frozen dinners, sauces, and yogurt fit the ultra-processed label and are implicated in causing disease.
A few years ago, I was writing about salt, and I went to the biggest companies and said, look, salt has become like this public enemy #1 because of its links to heart disease. And
what are my thoughts about salt? Like a lot of the foods, processed or unprocessed, or either like highly processed or lowly processed foods aren't, I don't think it's like, the foods aren't inherently good or bad. Foods simply have an effect on your body if you consume it. It's as simple as that. So like salt, salt does things to your body. It's not good. Like obviously, if you consume an excessively large amount of salt, then yeah, it's probably going to be bad for you. And if you think you are consuming too much salt, yeah, you would probably feel a little bit better if you reduced your salt intake. So, I mean, me personally, like, I don't eat like a lot of salt. Like, I don't salt a lot of my foods. Like, I'll add like a little bit, but it's not like a shitload.
Why aren't you like cutting back on your use of salt? And Kellogg's, said to me, hey, come on in. We'll show you.
That's Michael Moss, journalist and author of Hooked, a book about how food giants exploit our addictions.
And we put some saltless cornflakes in the bowl. I didn't even know cornflakes had salt, but they do. But these saltless cornflakes went in our bowl. We put some milk on it, took a bite. And before I could say anything, the chief spokeswoman for Kellogg's was sitting there with me.
Oh,
she
shit.
gets this look of horror on her face.
Oh yeah, when the spokesperson comes up to try to talk to like someone that's trying to do some research or a documentary or write a book or something, this is what they trained for their entire life. She has her entire logarithmic algorithm mapped out. If he asked this, I hit him with that. If he asked that, I'll hit him with this, and come back and try to resell him on this and be like, oh, this isn't that bad. This isn't that. No, this is just a popular misconception. It's actually like this. And this, when you talk, if you do like any type of interview like this, of course, the spokesperson for the thing you are interviewing, like this is like a white belt. Well, probably not a white belt, but this is like a black belt in that this is like the spokesperson going up against, I don't know, like a yellow belt or something.
And she swallows and she blurts out, metal, I taste metal, M-E-T-A-L. And I was kind of thinking the same thing, which was one of my fillings had come out and was sloshing around.
What?
And the chief technical officer sitting there too, and he's kind of in charge of all things scientific, he laughs and he goes, not all people will taste that, but one of the beautiful things about salt for us is that it will cover up some of the off notes, bad taste, that are inherent to kind of the manufacturing process. And so the reason you see so much salt, sugar, fat, and others that are problematic ingredients in these products is that the companies are using those ingredients as part of the industrial process for the manufacturing, for the shelf life, things you don't need to worry about as a home cook.
While our food environment is saturated with the salty and sugary goodness of ultra-processed food, something else is happening. We are constantly bombarded with nutritional advice about how to stay healthy, what foods can ward off cancer or diabetes. And
Bro, the entire dieting industry, like no one can figure out what is right and what is wrong. Like, yeah, you could probably take some educated guess, but once you get down to the nitty gritty of it, like there's so many fucking diets, dude. Like, what is this? Like, what do we got? We got, what is this? We got low carb diet. What else? We got low fat diet. I don't think anybody is really, we got the vegan diet, how do I spell vegetarian diet? Vegetarian diet. I don't even know. Like, I forgot. I always forget like I know vegan's like the no animal product one. I forget what vegetarian was. There's what is this? Paleo diet, the CrossFit one. What else? There's what's the keto diet? Like I can keep going, but these are like some of the major ones that everyone's like, up in arms about. Like, this is the best one for losing weight. No, this one's the best one. All of these 100% work when you follow them to a T.
and which ones are slowly killing us. And these two realities are actually deeply related. Let's go back to 2015, when Kraft successfully marketed their singles, which cannot legally be called cheese, as a health food.
Kraft American singles have double the calcium of many other American slices, plus vitamin D to help grow strong bones.
In 2015, Kraft teamed up with the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, it's a professional group of nutritionists and dietitians, in a campaign called Kids Eat Right.
But what if a company wants the positive PR of
deep
going
frying,
healthy, but doesn't want the hassle of actually improving their product? Well, there's a solution for them too.
We do want to move now to a new Kids Eat Right label that will soon be appearing on Kraft singles.
Oh boy, look at how friendly this label looks. Oh, it's like a little kid and some kitty letters. Like a kid drew it on there. Oh, that's so cute. It has to be, and like the Eat Right with the green. It has to be right if it's like this kind of label. It's so inviting. It's non-offensive. Everyone can get behind. Kids Eat Right. Well, if it's good enough for a kid, it's good enough for me. They don't want to come out and tell you how many parts per million, how much like microplastics are in each little slice of cheese.
Soon be appearing on Kraft singles.
One of the things that food companies do is they partner with health organizations, the American Heart Association, the American Diabetes Association, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And the idea is if you can donate to those organizations and support those organizations, then the organizations will thank you on their products. And they will say, you know, a partner of or whatever, and this makes it look like it's an endorsement of the products.
As researchers begin to understand the real effects of ultra-processed food on our health, food companies continue to exhaust every
I remember eating
option
these.
to make sure the science of their foods...
I remember eating those. The taco ones were always trash. Nobody wanted the tacos or nachos ones. Everybody either wanted the original ones with the the ham circles, the cheese squares, and the circle crackers, or they wanted the pizza ones. Because the pizza ones had the crunch bar right there. Yeah, and the gigantic Capri Sun that came with it. Yep.
Doesn't hurt their bottom line.
Pizza! This is the goat right here. And it had like little Butterfinger ones. Yep.
Sound familiar?
Tobacco companies had a big problem. You know, more than 50, 70 years ago. There was research coming out that linked cigarette smoking to lung cancer. So the first thing they did was to cast doubt on the research. Not enough people in the trial, wasn't adequately controlled, could have been due to other problems.
When it comes to ultra-processed food, the industry is stacking panels and writing op-eds doing just that. Ultra-processed foods are too broad a category, they say. People might accidentally forego a healthy food that fits the bill. And listen, there's good scientific questions around the ultra-processed
trial. Wasn't adequate.
These experiments are not regarded as conclusive in the field of cancer research. Oh, although conducted by doctors in professional standings, okay. However, we do not believe that any serious medical research, even though its results are inconclusive, should be disregarded or lightly dismissed. So, read between the lines. So, yeah, you can dismiss it, and you can dismiss it, and you can kind of disregard it, because yeah.
Adequately controlled, could have been due to other problems.
When it comes to ultra-processed food, the industry is stacking panels and writing op-eds doing just that. Ultra-processed.
Oh yeah, I would imagine the food industry wants to avoid words like high processed foods or highly processed foods. They probably want to use buzzwords like it's organic or it's grass-fed, it's non-GMO friendly, or whatever. Fact, fad, and hyperbole. What's the deal with ultra-processed foods? Oh, it's not high-processed, it's ultra-processed. A popular change in nomenclature is obscuring strides in the industry has made with the nutritional value of its products in recent years, argued Sean McBride of DSM Communications. Oh, so this is just a simple, semantics problem. What words have a positive connotation and what words have a negative connotation that people use along with their food?
Foods are too broad a category.
Oh, whoa, what is this one? There are more than a few significant problems with the UPF narrative, but chief among them is just about everything we eat is processed in some way. Yeah, the use of the terms processed or ultra processed. I like how they to use the word ultra. Like, what's a good word to stick in front of ultra? why didn't they choose like mega processed or giga processed or magna processed as a litmus test? Is a fatally flawed nutrition advice shortcut that moves us backward and not forward on the journey to sound and actionable nutrition advice. Yeah.
They say. People might accidentally forego a healthy food that fits the bill. And listen, there's good scientific questions around the ultra-processed label, fringe cases and exceptions to the rule, for instance. But food companies aren't trying to further the science.
I remember that commercial. Holy shit. I am so fucking old. I remember this commercial.
Trying to torpedo it.
So, number one, cast doubt on the research. Number two, cast doubt on the researchers. Then you buy your own researchers. You recruit.
The Tobacco Industry Research Committee was formed last year to sponsor independent research. Oh, wow. I wonder what they'll find out with this independent research.
Researchers to do their own studies, and you give them a lot of money.
The Tobacco Industry Research Committee has increased its research funds to $1 million. Yeah. So this, like, I wonder what this, like, $1 million is going to go to, and what kind of results the research is going to come out of all these little science tests. Oh, surprise. Smoking is not bad for you. Because, yeah, that's just what we figured it out, guys. Yeah, smoking's not so bad for you. Tobacco's fine. It's not the issue. Our cigarettes are good and safe. Where'd you guys get your money? Big Tobacco. Oh, okay.
To do that.
And here lies the tactic behind not just the fight over ultra-processed food, but all of the confusing nutritional advice we get exposed to through the media.
Oh, yeah.
Is the problem with childhood nutrition that they don't receive enough vitamin D or calcium?
Oh, yeah.
I sure think so. Is exercise more important than diet for weight loss? I sure don't know. But Coca-Cola...
It's calories in, calories out. How much we gotta say that?
...funded a bunch of studies that say...
This publication of this article was supported by the Coca-Cola Company. So,
just in case you thought about cutting back on soda. Food companies and their trade associations literally flood the academic space with money. Ever heard that people who eat breakfast are healthier than those that don't? Those were studies sponsored by Kellogg's and other breakfast food manufacturers.
It's the food.
Oh wait, what did that one say?
About cutting back on soda. Food companies and their trade associations literally flood the academic space with money. Ever heard that people who eat breakfast are healthier than those that don't? Those were studies.
Oh yeah, like if you don't eat breakfast, you're not as healthy as someone that, as someone that does eat breakfast. Yeah, sure, okay, buddy. It's like the marketing budget for some of these big companies is seemingly indistinguishable from like the research budget for these same companies.
Sponsored by Kellogg.
They're literally just pulling money out of their marketing and just being like, yeah, take it, go. Make the fucking the science experiment skew in our favor. Okay, bye.
And other breakfast food.
Missing breakfast can have a negative effect on general health, both in the short and long term.
Manufacturers.
It's the food industry's advantage.
So you should eat breakfast. Okay, what should I eat breakfast? What should I have for breakfast? You should probably have a big bowl of a sugary, salty metal cereal. Thanks, Big Food. Appreciate it.
To keep the public confused.
We can actually quantify how corrupt funding from corporations and trade groups can be. One review looked at industry-funded studies and found that 60% showed results favorable to the sponsor. That
oh
doesn't
shit!
Seem so bad, except that only 3% came to an unfavorable conclusion. The dietary guidelines.
Okay. Wow, that's a huge ass fucking percent, dude. Was it? What did he say? Like 55.6%. 55.6% reported findings favorable. Okay, so he said over 60% of like food research is funded by Big Food, and of that 60%, 55.6% reported findings favorable to the relevant food industry interests, compared to the 9.7% of articles without food industry involvement. Oh my, that's a big chunk. So yeah, so anytime someone wants to say, oh, well, what's the research say? What's the research say? You can't even depend on the fucking research because all the research is funded by Big Food.
favorable to the sponsor. That doesn't seem so bad, except that only 3% came to an unfavorable conclusion. The Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee should, in theory, cut through all of that noise and give the American public good, scientific information so that they can make their own decisions. But 9 of the 20 members of the committee had some conflict of interest with food, pharmaceutical, or weight loss companies.
The food industry doesn't want any suggestion in dietary guidelines of eating less of their products. It's really simple.
Nope, we want you to eat the Snickers bar for breakfast, for lunch, for dinner. We want you to have Rice Krispies for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We need this to be the only food that you eat.
Remember those oddly similar ads we played a few minutes ago? It turns out that some of the biggest food companies were owned by tobacco companies until the mid-2000s.
Oh.
Philip Morris owned Kraft and General Foods. R.J. Reynolds owned Nabisco, until Philip Morris eventually bought that too. So it's no wonder why the same misinformation playbook is being used. What I really wanted to know was, how far do the similarities go? Did the execs at Philip Morris coach Kraft on how to hide the health consequences of their products? Did they go even further and actively try to get people hooked on their products?
My name is Tara Fazzino. I'm assistant professor of psychology at the University of Kansas. For a number of years now, I've studied what are called hyperpalatable foods, and they have combinations of nutrients that typically don't occur in nature, and so they tend to be really rewarding to consume in kind of an unnatural way. So we may find ourselves like
Bro, is it so weird that I recognize all those commercials that just played? Jesus.
continuing to eat these foods, even though like we're getting physiological signals telling us, oh, please stop, we've had enough.
So peanut butter, which is almost all fat, is not hyperpalatable.
Yeah.
But if you add the right amount of salt or sugar, it is. Like if this jar had a bunch of added sodium, or we had a Reese's peanut butter cup.
We conducted some analyses and found that the foods that were produced by tobacco-owned food companies were 29% more likely to be classified as being hyperpalatable foods relative to the same types of foods that were sold.
Hyperpalatable? What does she mean by like hyperpalatable? Like I know what hyper means, I know what palatable means, but like what, they just taste excessively good because they don't, I think she said it already, nutrients that are just mixed together and taste really good, but if you go to nature, you can't really find those flavors and nutrients and all that shit in nature. But since, you know, all this food's going through like the machine of big food, they can take the best of everything and slam it into this one product, like ranch, and be like, bam, hyper palatable.
During the same period of time by companies that were not tobacco owned.
Michael Moss described to me the moment during his research when his perspective on the addictive nature of these foods flipped. It took place during a meeting with a former Philip Morris lawyer.
Steve Parrish, the general counsel, we were sitting and chatting, and he said to me, you know, Michael, I'm one of those lucky people who could smoke one cigarette a day, put the pack away, and not have any compulsion to pull it out again until the next business meeting or the next day, whatever. But I couldn't go near a bag of our Oreo cookies for fear of losing control and eating half the bag in one setting. And it was like so revealing to me because it reinforced in me that they know. I mean, the heads of these companies don't eat their own products.
Oh, dang. That's kind of funny, because then when I compare that to video games, like I say, a lot of devs that make video games don't even play their own fucking games because you're around it the entire time. You don't want to have anything to do with it. If you're like the fucking CEO of Oreos, the last thing you want to ever put in your mouth is a fucking Oreo. That's so funny to me. I don't know why. It just is.
While the tobacco industry got out of the food business for the most part in the 2000s, other companies took a lesson from their success in selling these addictive foods.
They accounted for roughly 50% of the food supply in '88, and by 2018, they were, almost 69% of the food supply. So we had like a 14 percentage point increase, which was pretty dramatic. The non-tobacco-owned food companies observed the successes of the tobacco-based food companies in the market and reformulated to keep up.
As someone who studies addiction, I think
a lot of the rhetoric is, well, you know, if you open a sleeve of Oreos and eat the whole thing, it's on you. It's your lack of self-control. I mean, what is your sort of take on that?
I think that narrative serves the food companies.
I mean, I think it goes both ways. It's like, it's both, man. Like, yes, you should have self-control, but it's not like the food companies are trying to make a product that tastes bad. They're probably doing everything within their power to make the food as addictive as possible. 100%, dude. So, yes, you should have some self-control, but on the other side, the foods are really fucking addictive. I think it's both.
And not us as people. These foods are designed this way, and they maximize, they can maximize company profits.
These are the current stakes for the Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee.
I mean, and especially when you have all these like sugary sweet foods or whatever, it's like, and like even more so if you are a person that is brought up in a less than optimal household where, maybe like you or your parents or whatever don't really have the best diet, and the parents just transition their diet onto you. You have no idea of like what to eat. You simply are just going to eat whatever your parents eat. If your parents don't eat vegetables, you're probably not going to eat vegetables. If your parents eat a lot of fucking cookies, cakes, donuts, whatever, ice cream, you're probably going to eat a lot of cookies, cakes, donuts, ice cream. If your parents don't know how to cook, chances are you are not going to know how to cook. It's just, So to some degree, it's the company's fault, but also to another degree, people can be just victims of their just environment they spawned in, and that sucks.
What will the federal government come out and tell the American public about the health effects of ultra-processed foods? The Food and Beverage Issue Alliance, a mega trade group of other trade groups like the Sugar Association and the American Beverage Association, have already given this statement. FBIA members caution the committee from making strong recommendations. Another trade organization has urged the committee to discontinue using the term ultra-processed until there is consensus on an evidence-based definition. I'm not going to tell you what to eat or even how to eat, but I think it's a reasonable expectation for anyone to have access to good scientific information, to have dietary guidelines that reflect evidence rather than industry funding.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
because if you let these food companies try to self-regulate themselves, what are they going to do? They're going to act in their own self-interest. They're going to be like, oh, all of a sudden Snickers bar is like the most healthy fucking bar that you could possibly like have. Like, your brain needs sugar and water and oxygen to operate. Why not supercharge your brain with a Snickers bar? Yeah, for sure, dude. 100%.
This is a first step in a long process. One of the first studies linking tobacco to cancer was done in 1950. It wasn't until 1998 that the tobacco companies conceded and struck a deal to pay states for the medical damage they'd done and stop their aggressive and deceptive marketing practices. If we don't start now, we won't get another chance to set the record straight until 2029.
I mean, honestly, the reason why tobacco took the hit was because, I don't know, it seems like going against cigarettes was like the easiest layup of anybody's life to be like, oh, there's no possible way these idiots could think cigarettes are healthy. Let's just fight against this, and yeah, easy win. But then when you go, when you think about it, it's like, trying to go against a food, especially a seemingly, I don't know, like a quote unquote healthy food, it's like your fight is going to be like way harder than like something seemingly more obvious. Like, that's an easy win. That is, cigarettes. So, I mean, hopefully, the right people can get the job done, but I mean, who knows, man. I wish you guys nothing but the best. But, yeah, this is a good ass video. I definitely liked it. I'm a fan. I had no idea of who, More Perfect Union was, but he puts out some good stuff. And yeah, I'm a fan, and I want to see more. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I'll catch you guys on the next one, all right? Later.